The largest number of candidates ever running for presidency of Georgia, top 3 in the focus of international media. Protests in support of Saralidze. Civil activists and opposition leaders demand his release. No roads to Tsopi. What Armenians and Azerbaijanis expect from presidential candidates. Hello, you are watching a Spotlight special election program and I am Chinara Nurmamadova.
And I am Lala Iskenderli.
Presidential election in Georgia is in the focus of the world media. More than 20 international media organizations are accredited to cover election. They mostly concentrated on 3 candidates, Salome Zurabashvili, David Bakradze and Georgi Vashadze. You will see details in our journalist's report.
25 candidates are running for presidential elections on October 28. It is the largest number of candidates in the history of presidential elections in Georgia. The 3 main leaders are David Bakradze, Grigol Vashadze and Salome Zurabishvili. More than 20 different international media registered to cover election race in Georgia. Associated Press is one of them. Grigol Vashadze, nominated by the Strength in Unity movement, a newly established political platform led by Mikhail Saakashvili's United National Movement. Vashadze claimed to set early parliamentary elections and form a new coalition government. He promises to reduce the bureaucratic expenses and spend it on social needs. According to Vashadze, this pre-election campaign wasn't conducted fairly.
We do not have money. There is nothing fair about these elections. Nothing, absolutely nothing. We do not have money. Citizens, businessmen, they are scared to death to contribute a single dime to the united opposition.
Salome Zurabishvili, presidential candidate supported by the Georgian Dream Democratic Party. Her priorities are issues of the disabled, elderly care and social housing. She also promises to address the growing rates of gender violence, promote the return of immigrants and set temporary worker quotas for Georgian migrants.
Now we are ready to move not only to an independent country, we are an independent country, not only to a democratic society, I think we are more or less a democratic society, but now to a European type of society where citizens are more important, where they defend their rights, when all kinds of social rights are better represented.
David Bakradze presents oppositional party European Georgia. In his campaign, Bakradze promises to increase pension by 50 Georgian lari, care for socially vulnerable segment, expand presidential funding on study abroad programs and ensure legal employment for Georgian citizens living abroad. Also, he claims to represent Georgia internationally in a due manner, to protect the country's security, to deoccupy the country and to attract more investors, creating more jobs.
Although having 25 years of conflict, Azerbaijanis and Armenians live in peace in the village Tsobe, Kvemo-Gartli region of Georgia. They can speak each other's language and help one another. Unfortunately, this solidarity is not enough to overcome their poor living conditions. Our shooting team visited this village 90 kilometers away from Tbilisi in order to find out problems of local people and to ask about their expectations from presidential elections. Details in our report.
This is a village in southern Georgia, where you can hear both Azerbaijani and Armenian at the same time, but not Georgian.
We know Georgian, but we don't speak, because actually we don't know.
Tsopi is located in Marneoli municipality in Kvemo-Kartli region. Mainly Armenians and Azerbaijanis are living together in the village.
I am Armenian.
I am Azerbaijani. We grew up together.
We live together, we work together. Children also have good relationships.
I live in Armenian neighborhood. On all 4 sides, I am surrounded by Armenian houses. We give and take bread from each other.
Even though election is a day away, villagers have not actually seen any candidates in Tsopi. However, they have lots of things to tell them.
The living conditions of the village are very bad. The roads are also in bad condition. There are no jobs for locals.
We are suffering because of roads and no gas.
They have promised to repair the roads. Maybe they had some problems and couldn't manage to start.
The whole village is in trouble. There is no road and gas here.
Cleaning the town, roads, gas, and if they increase our pension, also it will be good.
There were lots of promises for decades, but many of them have not come true. Majority of locals don't believe promises anymore, relying on their past experience. Do you recognize the candidates?
No, I don't know them.
Nothing has changed. They promised to repair the roads, but they didn't. They do not care about our village.
They always promise during each election, but nothing changed.
There is a huge contrast between what they say and what they do.
900 people living in the village and 540 with the right to vote in upcoming presidential elections.
Arrest of Zaza Saralidze, who had been protesting for the last 47 days, demanding throughout investigation of the murder of his son in December 2017, caused protests of civil activists and opposition leaders. They demand his immediate release. Saralidze's mother joined the permanent protest. Zaza Saralidze's son was killed in a fight between two groups of schoolboys, and the father protests the government's investigation.
Release illegally arrested Zaza Saralidze. This is what activists demanded during their rally in front of the Parliament of Georgia. Protesters claim Saralidze was provoked to use his stick against the police when they were trying to set up a tent.
I am here to protest of arrest of Zaza Saralidze because the demonstration was illegally banned by police. I think that every person in this country has a right to protest. Police should investigate this case properly. This is a theater, not a state. Definitely this was a provocation. It is almost 50 days that Makaliashvili and Saralidze are here, and there has always been an attempt of provocation by police. They reached their goal, but they didn't know that they are cutting off the branch that they are sitting on.
Presidential candidates and civil activists also attended the protests. Protesters brought the tent to the parliament. Among the participants was Zaza Saralidze's mother, who said that till her son is released, she will stay here. Please stand up with us. With the help of you, we want to get justice. Zaza was here for 47 days with the supporters, but now we should be more to force police to have appropriate reaction.
Our rights are defined by the Constitution. We are supporters of David Saralidze, and now we have to be in this small tent to protest David Saralidze's arrest.
During the rally, police released two men who were arrested with Zaza Saralidze. Police claims that they assaulted policemen.
The order of the arrest was given by Vladimir Sadgobelashvili. Everyone should know his name to remember that what kind of policeman Georgian government has. We were for 4 hours in car handcuffed. Today, Georgia has a puppet police. You are slaves because you arrested us illegally and we aren't afraid of you.
law enforcers took away the tent from the activists, which was followed by the confrontation between law enforcers and rally participants, but no one was arrested. Zaza Saralidze is currently in Ingorova hospital because of his health condition. Saralidze is accused of attacking a police, which envisages from 4 to 7 years of imprisonment.
The pre-election campaign was primarily focused on mutual accusation of candidates. This is what three media NGOs, ISFED, GILA and Transparency International Georgia said at a press conference held today. Major challenges in a pre-election environment include attacks from the authorities and the ruling party leaders. Together with the activation of pre-election campaigns, attempts to discredit observation organization began, including daily verbal attack from high official of the ruling party.
მნიშვნელოვანია რომ არასაკმარისად საარჩევნო კამპანიის დაფინანსებასთან დაკავშირებით მინდა ვთქვა რომ ამ არჩევნების დროსაც ისევე როგორც წინა არჩევნების დროს
We are prepared to react on any kind of violations during elections. We, the Fair Elections NGO, have quite a big observational mission. 800 observers will be distributed throughout all the precincts. Observers will be at all polling stations and also mobile groups will move between different locations.
Media coverage during the pre-election period was quite polarized. This is what media monitoring mission, consisting of 3 different organizations, claim. How media coverage can affect the election results and what are the challenges that media is facing. These issues will be discussed here in our studio with a special guest, media expert Nino Danielia. Our journalist Sofia Apramashvili joins us now. Sofia?
Thank you, Chinara, and thank you, Nino, for coming to our show. A few days ago, leader of Georgian Dream, Bidzina Ivanishvili, criticized Rustavi-2 and said he would help the station become more democratic. What do you think about this subject?
The message is totally unacceptable. Let's remember what is the role of free and independent media and why we need high-quality journalism. We need to inform our citizens, especially it is important in the pre-election period, and also we need our independence and independent media to hold accountable those who are in power, and to make sure that if they abuse the power or they do something wrong, not good to our public and to our society, then the public has right to know. When those who are in power, and especially those who are billionaires and have much more money than the state budget is, and who are informal rulers who have constitutional majority in the parliament, who have courts, do whatever they want, and who are not known as good governors, it is very important and alarming to our citizens that those type of person says that he wants to make Rustavi-2 one of the most critical to the power and to the current government TV station democratic. That means that he wants Rustavi-2 to be loyal to the government and to him personally.
Is it right when leader of the political party chooses the journalist who should be on his or her press conference?
Definitely not, because this is the right of the channel to send the journalists to the press conference and to the briefing or to the interview. It is the right of the manager, producer, editor, whoever holds accountability to the program. So when somebody, especially authority, wants certain kind of journalist to be there, it's absolutely unacceptable, and that was the case several days ago. And I think that Georgian media, though we criticize very often professional standards, and I think critics and citizens are right, because we want better media environment, but this was the case when media media's answer was right. The channels selected those who they wanted to, and another day when, again, Ivanishvili invites some other media representatives, they said no to his invitation, and they were right too.
Thank you, Nino. And how can you evaluate media outlets' work in pre-election period?
It depends who we are talking about, because, as you know, in TV media environment, we have not simple picture. We have a TV channel who is loyal to the government. We have TV channel who is loyal to the opposition party, and in particular to the United National Movement. And we have in the middle small TV companies, TV Pirveli, for instance, or Kafkasia, who are not that popular, but who are independent from any political, not interference only, but bias, let's say. And we have very strong, very professional online media outlets, and we have Radio Liberty, for instance, who work in a very professional manner, who don't have any kind of political bias. And so it depends what type of media you are talking about, but in general I would say that media environment in Georgia currently in pre-election period is pluralistic. I would say also democratic. Maybe we would like to have more independence in TV and TV media environment, but that's now what we have.
And one day is left before the election.
Right.
What changes do you expect for media after the elections?
We'll see, because Ivanishvili's statements and the message was very alarming, not only to media but also to non-governmental organizations who are criticizing his government. So we'll see. I think that several issues will pop up. They will try to make Rustavitu somehow, now I can't say how, more loyal to the government. Maybe again some kind of attacks will continue, because otherwise all court instances now in Georgia are we do not expect any other new court case, because everything is closed, and we had all this circle of court hearings. I think there will be some kind of attacks on journalists and the management, and maybe there will be some kind of pressure on advertising companies not to bring advertisements to Rustavitu, and maybe there will be some budgetary issues, because I don't know now what it might be, but some kind of resources will be used against Rustavitu, and if they succeed in case of Rustavitu, then it will be, let's say, dominoes effect, and all independent TV companies and media outlets will be in trouble. But I don't think that the government will be successful, because they tried once, they failed, and I think that they will fail each time as they will try to suppress and intervene in media independence.
Thank you, Nino, for very interesting answers. And now we can go back to our anchors. Lala.
Thank you, Sofa. The presidential candidates give promises to their voters. Each candidate organizes a meeting with their target audience. But are their promises realistic, and does a limited constitutional power allow them to be able to fulfill their promises? Some experts argue that presidential promises are not always realistic, especially in regard to the increase of pensions and salaries.
All candidates say they will fight poverty. Almost all candidates say they will have employment programs. They don't have much power, but they can create better relationships with other nations. The job is to be Georgia's global representative and strengthen relationships with other countries. I do not take seriously presidential promises to reduce poverty or increase pensions.
As presidents, single-handedly, they cannot do it. But of course, also yesterday during presidential debates, they highlighted that when they promise such things, they also rely on the support of their own respective parties, and they hope that they can influence the budgetary process of the state. and therefore to free up the necessary resources to increase the pensions. So president himself or herself, they cannot do that, but the president and the parliament jointly, they can of course do it.
Earlier, our correspondent Lika Bakurade talked to the political analyst Tornika Sharashedze, asking about the tendency of the pre-election landscape and its impacts on the outcome.
On Sunday, we have probably last presidential elections. So, has been there anything that has surprised you during a pre-election period?
I was surprised by the fact that the ruling party decided to support someone like Salome Zurabishvili, extremely, let's say, controversial candidate and a complicated character, which, of course, made things for the ruling party only worse. And the second, what surprised me, that this presidential campaign is unfortunately following the same pattern. I mean that we still have the bipolarity in Georgian politics, Georgian Dream versus former ruling party, United National Movement. And actually it suits both parties, so it's Georgian Dream because it tells the voters, you know, I may not be that good, but the only alternative, it's United National Movement with its brutality, with Saakashvili, who plays a role of, you know, public enemy for some Georgians still, unfortunately for him, of course, and also it's, you know, United National Movement because it still reasserts itself as the only serious opposition to the Georgian Dream Party. And when an ordinary average Georgian voter goes to polling station, you know, he or she still faces, you know, this alternative, Ivanishvili or Saakashvili. Peaceful Georgia with all of these problems, you know, shortcomings, or revolutionary, maybe even chaotic Georgia. That's how Georgia is portrayed right now. That's why, in the end of the day, I think that Ivanishvili's candidate still will win these elections, thanks to use, or let's say abuse of administrative resource, thanks to falsification, and for that I think Georgian Dream and personally Ivanishvili will pay a huge political price, both inside and outside Georgia. But I think they will get away with that on these elections. Maybe in 2 years, when we have parliamentary elections, I think then Georgian Dream should lose, and there will be someone who will replace them.
10 years have passed after Russian-Georgian August War. IDPs in Serovani camp, like more than thousands of internally displaced people in Georgia, have many challenges and unresolved issues facing every day. Our correspondents visited the area to find out what are their expectations from presidential elections. Although future president of Georgia has limited powers, he is still commander-in-chief of the country.
არაფერი, მაგრამ ადაპირება რა უნდა მისცე, რაც არის ეგ იქნება, სხვა რა. არც ამაქვს მე მაგათი მოლოდინი, მაგრამ ყველა თავის თავს უნდა დაეხმაროს, რანაირად უნდა დაგპირდენი, რა უნდა დაპირდენი.
ბრძანდებოდა ქალბატონი სალომე ზურაბიშვილი, რომელზეც ჩემში ძალიან დადებითად განვიწყე მაგ ქალის მიმართ, რატომღაც მგონია რომ ქალი პრეზიდენტი საქართველოს გადაარჩენს. წეროვანთან დაპირებები ქონდა ის, რომ აშენდება სამონტყოფო, რომელიც ძალიან ჭირდება წეროვანს და დევნილებისთვის რაღაც ცვლილება იქნება. და დაუბრუნდებით ოდესღაც იმ ოკუპირებულ ტერიტორიაზე, რომელიც ამჟამად რუსეთის არის და ჩვენი გახდება მალე.
ჯერა რომ შალვა ნათელაშვილი თუ იქნება პრეზიდენტად, ბევრ საკითხს გააკეთებს სტუდენტებისთვის, მოსწავლე ახალგაზრდობისთვის, პენსიონერებისთვის და მთლიანად ჩვენი ქვეყნისთვის სამშობლოს გაერთიანებას გვპირდება, რაც ჩვენთვის დევნილებისთვის ყველაზე უმთავრესია, რომ დაუბრუნდეთ ჩვენ ოკუპირებულ ტერიტორიებზე.
გებთ სხვას და გვიშვენის. ეს თავრობა უნდა წავიდეს. ხალხს საჭირდება შრომა, სამსახური. დაიშალა ყველაფერი, დაინგრა ყველაფერი.
Aside the tragedy of living far away from home, citizens' main problem is unemployment. Only source for income for them is trading goods.
საქმე კეთდებოდა, დასაქმებული იყო ხალხი. აქ იყო
რასეცა სათბურები ქონდა მუშაობდით, იქ ბელტა მუშაობდა, იქ ის მუშაობდა, ხალხი ყველა დასაქმებული იყო თითქმის. ეხლა არავინ აღარ მუშაობს გადაცვლა. არავინ. უმუშევარია ხალხი და უკანასკნელი მასი არიან. გაზი ყველაზე ძვირი ჩვენა გვაქვს. ტოლვილებს აქა ყველაზე ძვირი გადასახადი ჩვენა გვაქვს. დენი გაძვირებული, ყველაფერი გაძვირებულია.
Despite the majority's opinion, some of them refuse to answer the question, and some claim that there is no problem regarding to employment.
არის როგორ არის, ვისაც მუშაობა უნდა, ყველა მუშაობს. დამხმარე მუშას ვერ იშოვნი, ეხლა რო გახვიდე.
In spite of diversity of ideas, Tehranese citizens still have hope to meet next elections at their home places.
არჩევნებთან დაკავშირებით ჩვენ ყოველ წელს მოლოდინი გვაქვს რაღაც ახლის შეცვლისა და არაფერი იცვლება, ეს გული გტკივა. დაბრუნება გვინდა, ჩვენ დევნილები ვარ და ჩვენ ქვეყანა გვინდა, რა ვიცი და გვინდა რომ რა ვიცი რაღაც მოგვარდეს აი იქაური საქმე, რუსული საქმე, რა ვიცი და დაბრუნდეთ რა.
Is a top issue amongst young people as well. According to the election administration of Georgia, 27th municipal election had more than 700,000 voters aged 18-29, which constitutes approximately 20% of all voters. Considering the significant percentage of young voters, Georgian youth does have the power to influence election results. In the run-up to the presidential election, our correspondents approached students to find out what are their expectations and if they believe that election outcome can influence them.
First of all, I want to say that unemployment in Georgia is one of the important matters. As far as students are concerned, I think that students' unemployment would be one of the best ways to win our hearts, no matter who is our next president, because there are many people who come from different cities and they need income so they can use the knowledge and resources they acquire from their universities.
I believe new president has the ability to solve this problem because she or he or the new president has the power to make sure that everybody in this country has a job. But it needs a lot of effort and it needs a lot of financial sacrifice from the president. So I believe, of course, new president will be able to solve the problem, but it depends on the will of the new president. So it's a personal type of thing.
It's a tricky question because no every president have some kind of programs connected with youth unemployment. But the point is that youth unemployment is very big problem here in our country because it is more than 15%, especially when it's connected with youth. But maybe some of them just pointed that it is a very big problem and they have some particular programs to solve this problem, but I'm not sure if they can really solve this problem because this is only for the votes.
I really have no idea about that, but all I can say is that it's not just the president who's involved in this. The whole country, everyone, us, the people, the new generation has to change everything. So it's not just the president, it's the whole country. That's my answer.
I think that the president in Georgia has no ability to do this, I think, because there is many changes. Georgia is now the parliamentary republic and the president has no such she's not able to do this, I think.
Student unemployment should be more important and nepotism shouldn't be one of the problems in Georgia because nepotism is everywhere you go. If there is no nepotism and they will employ people because of their actual knowledge, that is how the problem will be fixed. Most of the time, students don't have time to go to school and work at the same times. We have to pay for our education, apartment rent and for food. Hopefully there will be workplaces created for students where we can work, support ourselves and study at the same time.
ყველა კანდიდატი საუბრობს იმის შესახებ, რომ რაღაც ფონდი იქნება სტუდენტებისთვის, რომლითაც მიეცემა სტუდენტებს.
Every candidate is talking about funds for students, where students will be able to go to universities for much cheaper. But I don't have a faith in that because President usually doesn't have much power over these matters.
მე ვფიქრობ, რომ პრეზიდენტის პირდაპირ ფუნქცია ეს არ არის, რა თქმა უნდა.
I believe that it doesn't concern the president directly, but they can still take some amount of funding from the president's fund and use it towards education.
I think the new president can't resolve this problem because he or she have no power of this. I think president can only speak about it. Too many. There are some students who need to work, because of studying here, and I think it's big problem because when I'm working on any kind of job, I think it's the problem of my studying. So I think it would be better if he or she resolve this problem. Problem of work or the payment of university.
One of the presidential candidates, Girchi leader Zurab Japaridze, is distinguished with his non-conventional actions throughout pre-election period. Today's event is a proof for that. Girchi organized a flea market event providing handmade objects including bracelets, t-shirts, handmade chacha, bags to raise some money for his presidential campaign.
Youth are our electorate mostly because they hear us better. They use the same platforms we are at, Facebook and social networks, and they understand what we say very easily compared to older generation. Our office members decided to hold today's event where different production was presented. It is mostly connected to cannabis culture, and we will also use this money for Facebook campaigns.
That's all for today. Thank you for being with us. Goodbye.
Goodbye.